All the living ex-presidents have called on America to get the shot. All the living ex-presidents except for one, Donald Trump. Obama did it. Or as, I'll not do my Obama imitation. Obama did it. As did Clinton, W, and Jimmy Carter. But no Donald Trump. And it's pretty obvious that none of these other living presidents, Obama, Clinton, Bush, and Carter, are going to have much sway with MAGA, especially Obama and Clinton. Just having those two advocate the shot means a lot of people of the MAGA persuasion won't trust it even more than they don't trust it already. So the Biden aides are figuring a public service message from Donald Trump would help. And it's not as though Donald Trump doesn't believe in the vaccine. He's already received one. Now the issue is he going to urge his followers to get one? And you know, this is not going to come cheap, people. I don't think it's going to happen at all, getting Donald Trump to give a public service message. But if they do reach out to him, it's going to come with a price. Donald Trump has been a transactional character his whole life. And so his first question when someone asks him to do something is, what do I get out of this? So if President Joe Biden is going to convince ex-President Donald Trump to do a public service message for getting the shot, Trump's probably going to want to get something out of it. What do you think he'd ask for? I think he'd ask for a full-out presidential pardon. Can you imagine that? President Joe Biden pardoning Donald Trump? Man, the heads of MSNBC viewers will explode. They've been waiting for the last 4 years to prosecute Trump. Monroe Anderson, my dear friend, comes on the show every Wednesday. He would be at the front of the line protesting that one. But who knows? Anything can happen. It's like the old TV show. If the price is right, someone will pay for it. And Donald Trump is going to be looking for the right price. We've got a great show today, everybody. The political love couple, as Dennis says, or the political power couple from the 25th Ward, Loreen Targos, EPA scientist, political activist, and great leftist extraordinaire, joined by her husband, Alderman Byron Sigcho-Lopez.
Lovebirds on the show. You're going to hear me go, all right, guys, stop holding hands. Hey, quit. Get a room, guys. Answer the question.
Hold on. Yes. No love birding on the show. Wait, I'll do my imitation of a lovebird. Caw, caw. Sorry, Dean. And Byron Sigcho-Lopez, a lot of environmental issues to discuss. We'll be talking about General Irons in the news as well, but the emissions proposal coming out of Lori Lightfoot has divided. Well, it passed the city council committee the other day, but a lot of environmentalists are against it. So a lot of, and get to see what their reaction is to what Joe Biden is up to. A very provocative article in The Reader by a good friend of the show, Leonard Goodman. Comes on the show. Oh, no, Sam Holloway. Sorry, Leonard. You're number 2 to Sam Holloway. But very interesting. And then I've reached out to him to have him come back on the show and talking about how Democrats should not be bamboozled by Joe Biden. Joe Biden has not moved far enough to the left. So interesting stuff from Leonard. And see what Loreen Targos has to say about that. Byron Sigcho-Lopez. I also talk policing issues, attitudes toward Mayor Lori Lightfoot. He's not one of the Mayor Lori Lightfoot's favorite, Byron Sigcho-Lopez. That's putting it mildly. They've had a few feuds. Right up there. He's right up there with the other Lopez, Raymond Lopez. And maybe ask him what he thinks about Ed Burke as a reformer. So plenty of environmental news, national news, and local politics to discuss with Loreen Targos and Byron Sigcho-Lopez. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
BYRON-SIGCHO-LOPEZ.
Not now, Byron. Later. You're on too early.
We got to play that for him. I don't know if he's heard that one. I know Loreen has heard it, but I don't know if he's heard it.
Something funny about it. I don't know what it is.
It's just funny. It's spelling his name. Hey, I've been there a million times. I've been spelling my name. Oh, my goodness. I do it like 5 times a day for the last 40 years.
Oh, and Biden pardoning Trump. Oh boy, I'm just trying to picture it in my head. Sounds something like this.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
Yeah. And at the bottom of it, we pardon you, Trump. I don't think he's going to call it. Look, that's just a bizarre notion that popped into my head when I was reading the newspaper today. When I was reading that story about how the White House aides are really wrestling with this decision. I mean, we have a divided country, ladies and gentlemen. We know about that. We talk about it all the time. The country is split. And when I watch the Grammys, D, I've mentioned this to you before. Like, you could see like the attempts to reach out to MAGA America, and they're just so futile. You know what I mean? There's like a country western or singers that come on. And I guess that's their attempt to reach out to MAGA, but by and large, it's not a MAGA crowd. This country is so divided, so everybody will get up, and if they have any politics that they'll mention, it'll be lefty politics. You know, that's just sort of part of a trend that's been going on and on in this country for the last 30 years or so, where what used to be events like Grammys and Emmys and the Oscars that the whole country, regardless of political affiliations, would watch. My guess is that as each year passes, it becomes more segmented. The audience is politically divided. That's definitely the case, I think, with the Grammys. So yeah, just imagine Biden, the White House, trying to figure out a way to get MAGA to get the shot and trying to enlist Donald Trump. Man, who is going to make that call if it comes down to that? Who is going to call Donald Trump? Excuse me, Mr. President, how about doing a public service announcement? He's going to hold out for a full pardon. You watch.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Dennis. Hey, what do you say we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon, huh? That'll be fun. We begin in Illinois, and we begin with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
Oh, Ben, you watched the Grammys. Any update? Did J.B. Pritzker get a Grammy?
Did not get a Grammy.
I mean, Cuomo got an Emmy.
Grammy. What's that?
I mean, Cuomo got an Emmy.
Yeah, Cuomo. Have they taken that back yet? They should take that Emmy back. Don't get me started on Cuomo. He's up for. Cuomo has already announced. All right, it's a tangent within a tangent. Sorry, Dee. Andrew Cuomo was last elected. First of all, he's been elected. Let's see, 2010, 2014, 2008, 3 times, and he announced a year ago that he was running again in 2022. So he's already announced that he's running for re-election, even as many of the leaders of his party, the Democratic Party in New York, say he should step down. So, man, the mighty have fallen. You know what I'm saying? Andrew Cuomo got the Emmy last year. Everyone loved him. Even I was starting to warm up to Cuomo. And I don't like the guy.
Then Trump lost. They needed someone else to focus on. And they're like, oh, yeah, that guy. What a douchebag.
Yeah. Well, in my defense, I was calling him that before Donald Trump. But, yeah, no. Pritzker didn't get a Grammy, didn't give a Grammy. Cuomo wasn't there.
Damn.
Cuomo didn't return his. Wouldn't that be something if Cuomo showed up at the Grammys and go, here, take my Emmy. I just happen to be in town. I'll see you. But no Pritzker at the Grammys.
And did you see the performance though? The most talked about performance of the Grammys, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion performing their hit song, WAP.
Yeah, I did not know the song. Oh God, I shouldn't confess this. I'd never heard of Megan Thee Stallion.
Well, no one really had until about, maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Do you have another confession to make? A lot of times I'll see people at the Grammys and I'm like, oh, that's a good performance. And I'll immediately forget I saw them. It just doesn't like sink into this baby boomer brain. And then like 2 years later, I'll stumble upon them and I'll probably tell you, oh my God, did you hear about this guy? It turns out I saw him at the Grammys 3 years ago. So no, did you watch it? Did you watch the Grammys?
Oh, hell no.
Okay. It's funny. I'm texting all my friends. Do you guys watch the Grammys? No one watches the Grammys except for me.
Now, the song that was performed was called WAP, W-A-P, which is an abbreviation. Ben, what does W-A-P stand for?
WAP stands for Washington Area Project.
I wish. I like your answer better than what the actual answer is. All right, so I can't even say what it is, what that stands for. So we're just gonna move on. But look it up. Look it up online. Everybody on the live stream chat knows. A lot of people on the download know. Just look it up at WAP what that stands for.
All right, hold on. Let me look it up right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, this would be good. This would be good. This would be good.
All right, hold on.
And don't you say it when you find out, please.
Wait. Hold on. I typed WAS. Don't want to do that.
No.
And okay, here we go. No, that can't be it. All right, here we go.
I think that may be it.
What? No. Oh my goodness. No, the first one I saw was witness area protection. And I thought, that can't be it. They wouldn't sing a song about witness area protection.
But they will sing a song about.
Yeah. You know what? This show, last week, Dennis and I reached a conclusion. If you recall, last week we said no more swearing, offensive language. We're going to clean it up. We're going to pretend as though it's regulated by the feds, as opposed to just a podcast that's unregulated. So I am not going to read what it means. Was not aware of it. Okay.
You were tapping your toes. Boy, this is a catchy little song. Wop. That's interesting.
Honey, let's dance. Well, I love this song. I want the t-shirt. Oh man, I ordered it too. It's coming in the mail. It's gonna be kind of embarrassing. Good thing no one can see this show. Just hear it. Me wearing it. Hey D, look at this new t-shirt I got. Cardi B. By the way, for 10 trivia points, who did Cardi B endorse in last year's presidential election, Dennis?
Bernie Sanders.
Very good. Excellent. And Megan Thee Stallion?
Wait, do you even know who?
She
seems like a Buddha judge guy, but I don't know.
She endorsed Trigger, Roy Rogers' horse. Get it? Megan Thee Stallion?
Guys, we are full of them today, all right? We had some audio issues there in the beginning, but we're good. We're good to go. You got to hear that, so don't worry. Yeah, good times. Good times. So once again, we begin with Governor J.B. Pritzker.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
I said that last time. All right. I have no public events listed for the governor, but the hell with his public events, because we will all have public events going on once again as Governor Pritzker is looking toward a strategy of reopening Illinois.
Let's begin with phase one.
Afraid not, sir. Afraid not. In fact, I never thought we would see the day, but we are working our way toward phase 5, baby. Find the governor at the next Eagle concert in Illinois. He loves the Eagles.
And Stephen Miller, don't forget.
And Stephen Miller. Yeah. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. Governor J.B. Pritzker and his public health team are poised to release a retooled plan to reopen Illinois and end the majority of the COVID-19 restrictions as soon as adequate numbers of residents are fully vaccinated. IDPH Director Dr. Ezike spoke Monday about the plan, and she let it be known that while, yes, Illinois will be reopening, sort of, in their own little way, we're not getting rid of masks. She said, quote, "We're not getting rid of masks. We think masks have to continue to be a mainstay." Ezike's remarks came during an Illinois Senate Health Committee hearing. She told senators the governor may unveil plans for a phased-in reopening later this week. News the governor's spokeswoman confirmed. During the hearing, Ezike said moving from the current phase 4, which the state has been in since last summer, to phase 5 of the state's coronavirus reopening plan likely won't be a, quote, off switch, but maybe a dial. Meaning that the state may see at least one more phase of lessening coronavirus mitigations before a full reopening. Ezike said, quote, "It really does involve how much of our most vulnerable population has been vaccinated. And of course, that starts with our seniors. So once we see like a great majority of our seniors vaccinated, that should get us to another level. And then we can start having at least larger size gatherings, like everything open up with some kind of capacities."
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've just been in this attic for too long. But it just seems to me we're always getting so excited about reopening. And then, here comes a spike. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't want to be, you know what? That's the other thing I decided. I'm Debbie Downer too much. If Pritzker and Mayor Lori Lightfoot and all the other Governor Abbott of Texas want to open everything up, I should join the parade.
You would
But
be
I'm
a
nervous.
you would be a David Downer, by the way.
Oh yes, David Downer. Yes, Doobie Downer. How about that? Doobie Downer. Say that 10 times. Doobie Downer. Doobie Downer. Doobie Downer. I'm just not feeling it. I've seen it. We've lived through it. The spikes. So I'm pretty nervous about this, and I got to tell you, it's weird too because you hear stories, and I realize these are anecdotal stories, or not anecdotal. I mean, these are actual stories that, but you don't want to draw too many greater conclusions about them. But my wife told me about a friend of ours whose daughter got COVID, and they think she got it at the dentist. So now I'm like, oh, do I cancel my dentist appointment? By the way, D, I got a dentist appointment coming up. Didn't mean to tell you that. Okay, so should I cancel my dentist appointment? You know, that's what living in the attic does.
I mean, you will have really clean teeth, you know? I mean, that's a trade. That's a trade, right? Hey, I got COVID, but boy, my teeth are awesome. Look at these pearly whites.
I've been to the dentist twice, at least, since the pandemic. I didn't think twice about it. And I'm so close. That's the other thing, D. I got that first shot. And the second shot's coming in a couple weeks. And then after that, I could go to the dentist every day. So, you know, I think the paranoia, it's like the mind games in this pandemic are really starting to mess with me.
Yes, Ben
So
did.
I'm not, I don't know. When I hear Pritzker talk about this, I get a little nervous.
Well, Ben, for those who may have, missed it last week, yes, Ben did get his shot. And, well, quite frankly, I'm a little Alex Jones when it comes to these shots. I'm a little weary, all right? I'm waiting to see how people feel. So, Ben, how you feeling after that shot? What, it's been a week now?
It'll be a week on Thursday, right? Wait, hold on. Time out. Was it Thursday? I've lost track of time. Ooh, that's one side effect of the shot. Ooh.
Feeling good, though? You can feel your limbs? Everything's good?
Everything's good.
All
I
right.
took the Band-Aid off. The Band-Aid was off for 3 days. My wife said, you know, you might want to take that Band-Aid off. Like, oh, yeah, good point. I liked it. It was like a great Band-Aid or something like that. Yeah, so I feel fine. My arm feels fine. Back to doing my yoga, tree pose.
All right. And, good.
So, look, there's no reason to fear getting the shot if I'm an example of it, because I feel fine. It was one day, the arm was sore for about 24 hours, but that's it, D. So go get that shot. Well, you're not old enough. You're a young man. Well, as soon as you can, go get the shot.
I'll wait a little longer if I have to. So wait, cancel our reservations for Red Lobster this weekend. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no Red Lobster. I'm not ready to get back to Red Lobster.
Damn it.
Second shot. I'm glad Pritzker's feeling it. I'm starting to wonder. Oh, I don't want to be cynical and jaded, but there's political ramifications here, D. I hate to say this.
Thank God. Because we're a political podcast. I love political ramifications.
And one of them is the fact that J.B. Pritzker, there's just sort of this sense that he's in trouble. By the way, you've been way ahead of the game. You've been saying that for, I think, 6 months. I think June, when you came back from your first pandemic trip to Alton and go, my God.
You know, I think it was my 80th Pritzker sucks signs where I was like, all right, this guy may be in trouble.
Ben, there's Pritzker sucks signs everywhere. And that was downstate Illinois. And then I heard from people who live north of us and west of us. Yeah, there's Pritzker sucks signs. It seems like everywhere but Chicago and Cook County, there's Pritzker sucks signs. And since I never get out of Chicago, I never get out of my attic. You know, I'm immunized. How about that? I'm immunized from the Pritzker sucks signs. But you were the first person that told me. And then you showed me those Facebook feeds from people that you know downstate who really dislike Pritzker. You know, and I'm like, you know, JB, you're in trouble. I'm just saying with the downstate vote. Now, whether that's enough to elect a Republican, I do not know. But Rich Miller weighed in on Sunday, and his lead was, Dr. D is right.
About damn time. I'm waiting for him to call me Dennis, but hey, I'll take it.
Hey, Rich, come on. You could have given him credit. The guy was saying it months ago. But Rich Miller was saying, you know, he was citing that poll that we discussed last week, which I didn't really take much stock in. That was that poll done by the Republicans that showed Pritzker's in trouble. And the great trend in that poll is all the undecided voters. So this is the issue, folks. Will Pritzker be blamed for something that's not his fault? Like the pandemic is not Pritzker's fault. But so what? I mean, in politics today, like people, like they need a scapegoat. So will they blame Pritzker? Because, you know, they're sick of being in their attics. They're sick of wearing their masks. They're sick of not being able to go to the Red Lobster or go to their favorite movie theater or what have you. Will they just blame Pritzker? I get the sense that that's brewing.
Yeah.
He's the most obvious target to blame. And so when I hear that Pritzker's talking about opening up the state again, I'm wondering how much is politics playing in this? How much is Rich Miller's column playing into this? How much is Dr. D's reports from Alton playing in on this? So I don't know. I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be jaded. I want to believe in the science, to quote Lori Lightfoot. But I got a feeling they're like, all right, we got to start opening up this state a little bit. Who cares if people start falling again? I think we've all kind of like gone through all the different stages and phases of assessing the danger of the virus. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody has just come to the conclusion, like, I'm not exposed. I'm not really vulnerable. So I can get it. It's not the end of the world. By the way, speaking of Donald Trump, just a side point here, they were in the article. They were talking about doing the outreach to Donald Trump, hoping to get him to endorse getting the shot. Boy, guys, that's not coming cheap. Just saying it one more time. Donald Trump will want something for that. You want Donald Trump to do that public service announcement? You go, oh no, Ben, you don't understand. It's for the betterment of society. It's for the good of the people. Yeah, right. You better kick something in. And there's a lot of stuff that he could be prosecuted for. I've been reading one of the things I've been doing is, I hope Jim Coogan's listening because you'll be called in to discuss this. Andrew Weissman's book, he was a prosecutor in the Mueller investigation, worked right under Robert Mueller, and talks about all the failures of the Mueller investigation and how they let Donald Trump essentially intimidate them, push them around, shove them around. Fascinating reading, learning a lot about how prosecutors operate, how they use the law, subpoenas to gather all these information against people, like damning information against people, and then use the information they gather to like pressure people into testifying against other people. Like if they wanted to get at me for some reason, they would look through Dennis's income tax statements, find some little juicy nugget where he broke the law, and then they would call him in. They'd call him in for a special meeting in the bowels of the FBI office in Chicago. Like, Dr. D, we could prosecute you. You're looking at 5 years.
Really?
You're looking at 5 years in the clink. But if you spill the beans on that little hippie commie friend of yours in the attic, maybe we can talk to the judge, get it down to a year.
5 years, where do I sign? Let's do it. Let's write about it. Get out of that bus.
Yeah, so that's how they operate. And they've gathered all this dirt on Donald Trump. And they want to prosecute him. So you want that public service announcement, this part, drop that prosecution. So there's a lot of political ramifications going on here, D. I want to believe that J.B. Pritzker's immune to it. And the mask thing. That is so funny. What did J.B. Pritzker say? He's continuing the requirement that we wear masks. Is that what he said, D? Mm-hmm. Like anyone's listening to him in MAGA country? Memo to JB, they haven't been wearing a mask in 6 months.
Now, I saw a lot of people wearing masks downstate, though. I think they've gotten over it. Ah, damn it, whatever, give me that thing. And so I saw I went to the stores. I saw a lot of people wearing masks. But I saw on Facebook photos of bars where bands are playing and not a damn person.
Yeah, I know.
Slippery slope.
This is huge breaking news. We did not discuss this in the pre-show planning meeting. It's huge news. I remember the first time you went during the pandemic.
Someone called me a pussy for wearing a mask.
Yes. And then I think Cardi B wrote a song about it. Anyway,
Weak
with
ass.
Megan Thee Stallion, who will be appearing at. Sorry, I was going to make a stupid joke, which I'm not going to make. What they called you a pussy because you were wearing a mask. Was that at a gas station?
I like how we completely avoided the word during that Grammy song, but now we're just leaning in. Yeah.
It's different when it's the song.
Yeah. The two words that follow it really does make it not appropriate. It was in the gas station, and I heard just pussy. That's my
that's the MAGA voter. You're going to try to You know what, JB? I'm going to give you a little political advice, which you're free not to take. Most politicians don't take my political advice. But I would I don't know. I don't think you're getting that vote. The people who think Dennis is a pussy for wearing a mask don't think you're getting their vote. Just saying, that ship has left the harbor. That train's left the station.
Oh, yeah. And with Darren Bailey in, oh, my God, he's a rock star, baby. Like Bon Jovi's running for governor to these people.
So, I think JB's feeling the heat. But in terms of the mask thing, when I heard that, I was like shaking my head. Well, okay, we're relaxing things. It's going to be like, and I know all these metaphors. We're not going to switch on the light. We're going to turn the dimmer on. So it's going to slowly get bright. Okay, not going to just like that. Dimmer. Whoa, an analogy. Hey, Pritzker, did you study poetry in college, huh? And a metaphor, wow.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
But the mask thing is hilarious. You got to wear the mask. Okay. Well, it's good to hear, D. That's a good update. I'm really happy to hear that. More people wearing masks in the Alton area.
Just in time, right at the end of this.
Just before they get the shot. By the way, I'm going to be wearing the mask even after I get that second shot. Oh, yeah.
He's wearing the mask. He got the shot. And Ben is still staying home and saving lives. Take it away, accordion man.
Come on.
Yeah, baby.
Baby, I don't want you to go. Come on.
Come on.
Baby, I don't want you to go. Gotta protect this place. Stay home, Chicago.
Take it to the bridge.
Stay home. If there's nowhere that you need to go. Oh yeah, stay home. Hang low in your place today. Yeah. Gotta protect this place. Stay home, Chicago.
Hot damn.
By the way, D, I still put my money on Pritzker winning. I know he's in trouble. I know everybody's worried. I still say he's going to win. I think it probably Pritzker versus DB. And I think he's going to win.
You better open up those restaurants in the Viagra Triangle, buddy, all right? You better open them soon, or those people are going to switch over. Oh, that Bailey guy, he's in bed. All right, so we have more stuff here to talk about. Let's see here. We talked about Dr. ZK. All right. Nope, we don't want that. Oh, last night, Governor J.B. Pritzker was on WTTW's Chicago Tonight. Was he talking with Paris Schutz, Mayor Rahm Emanuel's least favorite person to talk with? No. He was talking with Amanda Vinicky. Remember, it was 1 year ago when Pritzker took that extraordinary step of issuing an executive order to halt dine-in service at bars and restaurants across the state in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. I have two audio clips from Pritzker on WTTW. Like to hear them? Here it go.
Since that executive order, restaurants, bars, many small businesses have struggled to stay afloat. Can you give them, Illinoisans, assurances that the worst is behind them?
I feel better today than I have this entire year. As you see, our numbers have significantly declined. The numbers of people going into the hospital, getting sick, going on a ventilator, in an ICU ward. And we've got more people vaccinated than on a per capita basis than any other of the top 10 largest states in the country. So we're headed in the right direction, and I think everybody should feel good about that. And their ability to go out to a restaurant and bar now is available to them.
Governor, please put your phone on mute.
Was that his phone?
Yeah.
Was that JB? Usually they take the phones from you. In Kenny Davis's old show, which was a great show, Chicago Newsroom, they would take your phone. I'd be like, before you went on the set, no, I want to hold on my phone. No, give me that phone. I'd be wrestling with the. But they're not going to tell the governor, Governor, can I have your phone? No. You worry about him hacking into his phone.
But wait, there's more.
You talked then early on that sacrifice would be needed to save lives. Upon reflection, would you have done anything differently? For example, even should that initial order have been more targeted so that it could have helped small businesses, not favor big box stores?
Well, it's certain that if I knew then what I know now, we might have done some things differently. But as you recall, this novel coronavirus hit us, and we were getting very little guidance from the federal government. The Trump administration was not much help at all, and then became, frankly, a hindrance along the way. We had to really find our own way as a state. And I think we did so as best we could. Certainly my focus all along, my North Star, has been keeping people alive, keeping people healthy, while keeping our economy going.
Good question. That was legitimately good question. Where's Lori Lightfoot when you need a good question? No, it's Hillary Clinton. Which good question. But Amanda Vinicky, that was a good question because I think this is the struggle right now that Illinois is facing as they sort of try to assess J.B. Pritzker's performance. Lori Lightfoot doesn't have this problem. I love pointing this out. People in Chicago, they wear the mask by and large. No one doubts it. So she doesn't have to deal with this, but J.B. Pritzker has to deal with this. And there was opposition. Oh gosh, I went about a month in. There was just the movement against shutting down, the lockdown movement, the anti-lockdown movement was already kicking into gear. So now he has to deal with this notion of, did you go too far too soon? I think it's too easy a criticism to make against J.B. Pritzker. He was confronting, as he put it, tough decisions in real time with lots of lives on the line, people freaking out, stories coming from Italy. We're forgetting what the world looked like back in March. The horrific stories coming out of Italy about all the deaths and how the disease was out of control. The stories coming out of New York. Cuomo did a horrific job.
All right.
Take that Emmy back. So, people forget that there was so much uncertainty and so much that was unknown back then, and so much fear. And so I think it's easy now to be the Monday morning quarterback regarding J.B. Pritzker. But this is the reality, as we've been saying. This is the political reality. And this is what he's confronting right now. People's attitudes starting to change and holding him responsible for businesses that went out of operation. And what he's hoping, of course, is that the aid from Washington will bolster these businesses and that there will be a resurgence. If this happens, Dee, then this is just a blip. If there's a resurgence in the economy and clubs are open and bars are open, restaurants are open, movie theaters are reopening again, in 6 months, we won't be talking about this. People will have forgotten. But this is where we are right now. It's that uncertainty.
Well, I remember when Pritzker was running against Bruce Rauner and the whole Quincy Veterans Home thing that happened under Rauner, and Pritzker was just laying it in on him about that. I mean, kind of, so it'll probably happen coming up in the next gubernatorial run, right? JB will get that, right?
Absolutely. It's already starting.
Yeah.
It's already starting. And, that's politics. You got to expect that. You're the man in charge, and you're held accountable for it. Ultimately, I still think that Pritzker's going to win the next election because, on top of everything else, man's got a lot of money, D, to run a lot of commercials. We're going to hear, if DB's the opponent, we're going to hear some stuff about DB. It's going to get nasty. But yeah, I forget what there's that boxing metaphor about if you wear the crown, they're coming after you, but whatever. I can't remember it.
All right, and before we wrap it up here, real quick, let's talk some city news. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
Mayor Lightfoot's administration is seeking more information about the cumulative air pollution around a proposed scrap metal shredding operation on the southeast side, an inquiry that delays the city's permitting for the controversial business. The city has been reviewing an operating permit application from Reserve Management Group, which acquired Lincoln Park-based General Iron in 2019. The company has been building a new facility at East 116th Street along the Calumet River to relocate General Iron as the rebranded Southside Recycling next to RMG's existing business. In a letter Monday, a city environmental official told RMG that it requires more information to, quote, properly assess the relationship between and the potential cumulative impact of all Reserve Management Group operations in the area. Air pollution throughout the southeast side is among the worst in the city. I'll go ahead and pause it there. I know we're going to be talking with Loreen and Byron about this a little more, but Ben, help folks out for those who may not know about this story. Catch us up.
Well, this is the topic of the column I wrote for last week's read. I urge everybody to check out that. I took a mini deep dive. Brett Chase has been doing an outstanding job covering the story for the Sun-Times. Got to give him a shout out. He's going to be a guest on our show next week. Looking forward to bringing Brett Chase on from the Chicago Sun-Times to talk about this story. Essentially, the city of Chicago greenlit the removal of the shredding operation from the north side, from an affluent area on the north side, a relatively affluent area on the north side, to a working class area on the southeast side of Chicago. I had Oscar Sanchez on the show last week talking about it. He lives on the southeast side of Chicago. And it just sort of summed up politics in the city of Chicago. You know, you got this noisy, obnoxious operation on the north side that all the upscale, well-to-do people are complaining about. What do we do with it? We need to move it so we can develop the area and developers can make the maximum amount of money from building on their land. I know. I got a great idea. We'll just dump it on the south side. And so it looked like a done deal, D. Looked like the deal was done, and then opposition was far more ferocious on the southeast side than anybody anticipated. There's been lawsuits. There's been the residents on the southeast side have pressured the city, pressured HUD into doing an investigation. The Fed's doing an investigation. So now it's suddenly political issue. You don't want to look like you're promoting environmental racism. So now, that final permit that the city needs to issue before a Reserve Management Group can operate that shredder has been withheld. They haven't released it yet. They haven't issued it yet. So more studies. This was a car well along the highway to that destination of permanent operation. And suddenly, hold up. City is going to take a look at the larger environmental consequences. We'll be talking about this, Loreen Targos and Byron Sigcho-Lopez. Loreen Targos, of course, EPA scientist, has a few things to say about the scientific impact. And Byron Sigcho-Lopez has been a leader, even though it's not his ward. He's closely aligned with some of the activists who they went on a hunger strike to force attention to the issue. So it's a pretty remarkable story, D. This thing is completely, it was just, I'm telling you, it just had all the trappings of a classic Chicago done deal. Move it from the north side, put it in the south side, tell the folks there they're getting jobs. Everybody's happy.
So there you are, everybody. We're going to be talking more about that with Loreen and Alderman Sigcho-Lopez. I'm about to reach out to him now. But remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews like the ones over the weekend, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com or wherever else you download podcasts. It's true. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Send us an email. Let us know what you think. Put your name and where you're from. Kind of helps, when we read your, or if you want to be anonymous. We read an anonymous one the other day. Just do what you want. Send us an email, and if we like it, we'll read it. How about that? And you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. We have a phone number, 708-658-4788. The number again, 708 658-4788. I'm looking. Voicemails are a little dry at the moment. Call us up. Leave us a voicemail. Jim, where are you at? Bulls Trivia. Let's do a little bit of that, huh? 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Loreen Targos and Byron Sigcho-Lopez. Don't go anywhere. All things Chicago political talk coming up and so much more. It's the Ben Joravsky Show live from my apartment, not in downstate anymore, and his attic. Take it away, accordion man.
Come on, baby, I don't want you to go. Come on, baby, I don't want you to go. Gotta protect this place. Stay home, Chicago.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
If there's nowhere that you need to go,
Play the radio.
yeah, stay home. Hang low in your place today, yeah. Gotta protect this place. Stay home, Chicago.
This little light of mine. This little light of mine.
Play the radio.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Illinois is a state with a grand history of profound impact on our nation and our world. We've sent 4 transformative presidents to the White House. We were the first state to ratify 2 of the most important amendments to the U.S. Constitution. One abolishing slavery and another one granting women the right to vote. The first cell phone was invented here. So was the first television remote control and the first widely used internet browser. What all these
He
things
loves Illinois. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, March 16th is brought to you by Unions, SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away.
We call them the political love couple, the political power couple of the 25th Ward. 2 of my favorite guests, Loreen Targos, Alderman Byron Sigcho-Lopez. And I call you guys a triple threat. I'll explain why. Sometimes, and I love all my guests, okay? I'm not favoring any guest over the other, but some guests they'll go, Ben, don't ask me about XYZ. You know, I can do local issues, but not national. Or I could do national, but I can't do local. Or don't ask me about the environment. Well, with Loreen and Byron, it's like they're triple threat. You want to talk environment? We'll talk environment. You want to talk local issues and Mayor Lori Lightfoot? We'll talk local issues and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. You want to talk national issues? We'll talk national issues. Byron even wants to talk Ecuadorian environmental issues.
Holy cow.
I mean, it's like, okay, do that curveball at me at the last moment. I'm ready. I'll talk about anything. And to top it all, unapologetic lefties. They're not afraid to say they're lefties, proud of it. So Loreen and Byron, with that as an introduction, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ben. Always good to be here.
All right, let's start with some local stuff. Let's just do the transition, and you guys just share the mic, as they say. get both of your thoughts on this one, because I know both of you have thoughts on this. General Irons wrote a story about it last week, wrote a column about it last week. We were just talking about it before you came on the air. The city, in its infinite wisdom, decided it was a good idea to take this loud, obnoxious, noisy shredding operation that had existed for years on a rapidly gentrifying north side neighborhood and move it to the far southeast side. And that does two things, Byron and Loreen. One, it opens up the land on the north side for more gentrification. Two, it enables the city to take care of the various interests that own these operations, keep them in business, and say they're creating jobs. There was opposition to it, a hunger strike over it. Oscar Sanchez was on the show last week. We'll start with you, Loreen. What's your general attitude or thoughts about moving General Irons facility from the north side to the south side? Take it away.
It's just a great illustration of the power dynamics in our city that continue to endure under, what was supposed to be a change in leadership at the mayor's office. Just a perpetuation of the status quo. And I'm grateful that the people are no longer tolerating the status quo, and only for their courage and sacrifice in taking on the hunger strike did anything happen on this. Without them, no one was coming to save them but them, and they stood up and saved themselves, or in a fight to save themselves. We've had little wins, but the permit hasn't been denied yet, so we're still fighting.
Byron, what's your thoughts on how this is gonna play out?
Well, if there's any justice, and if there's actually a commitment, and we hear time after time from Mayor Lightfoot and Pritzker and so forth that there is a commitment to address environmental issues and environmental racism in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. However, we haven't seen that being translated into legislation or action. We got to also remember that these same developers, Sterling Bay, receive over $1.3 billion in tip subsidies. I mean, last time I said, I saw, Lincoln Park doesn't seem to be blighted to it. But again, the issue with the current administration about broken promises, right? Not only after campaigning against these tip giveaways, they were given ultimately that was one of the first sessions in one of the first decisions that the mayor made. Some of us were outside protesting, right? So there's a history with that. And fast forwarding, almost 2 years later, when we have the opportunity to truly talk about environmental justice, the mayor also campaigned on restoring the Department of the Environment. We're still waiting on that promise. But what concerns us most is the cumulative effects on communities like Southeast Chicago, right? When we see communities that have been devastated by environmental racism and pollution for decades, we gotta see the impact that this has had in our communities. Like the average rates of asthma for kids is like triple the average. We have, in diesel emissions, hazardous materials, and air pollution, a community that is in the top percentile. Now, I'm not surprised that at least the HUD administration has asked the mayor to withhold any permits to General Iron. I do think that we need to ensure that there's a real investigation, because if it is, and if there's any justice from the Department of Public Health and at the three investigations at the federal level, it's very obvious that we have serious cumulative effects. There's a federal law that protects communities like Southeast Chicago, and if there's any justice, and if we are going to change the poor history, poor track record of environmental racism and corruption in the city of Chicago, we must deny the permit and we move towards remediation. Let's imagine for a second what would we be able to do if we invest $1.3 billion in an actually blighted community to bring green jobs, sustainable jobs. Let's imagine what that looked like, right? Yeah. So what they're selling us is far short from what is acceptable or moral.
All right. You talk about the environmental impact of moving this operation to the southeast side. And I'm reminded of a story that Brett Chase broke. I got to give him a shout out, Chicago Sun-Times reporter. I wrote about it. I followed up with a column on it. And Loreen, I know you read it, where not only was the city not vigilant in taking a look at what the impact of emissions are coming from this operation on the north side of Chicago, in the Rahm Emanuel administration, the health commissioner advised there was a study that was going to come out that was going to talk about the impact on the environment of the General Irons facility. The health commissioner advised, what a city this is. The health commissioner of the city of Chicago advised the powers that be in the Rahm Emanuel administration to go to the chancellor of the University of Illinois and kill the study. In defense of Lori Lightfoot, that was the Rahm Emanuel administration. Loreen, in your humble opinion, you're a scientist for the EPA. Do you think the city is accepting the challenge of addressing its environmental issues and fearlessly studying its environmental issues, even if that means denying a permit to a well-connected operator? Do you think the city is looking out for the health interests of its citizens? Go.
Absolutely not. And, I was a student at UIC School of Public Health, and I saw the chancellor's comment in the article saying, oh, we would have denied it. And, it's a real shame that there is this corruption, even in our health officials now. Dr. Arwady under the Lightfoot administration is not doing much better and standing up for, they keep saying, oh, we're standing up for science. As a scientist, I really, take great, I don't know what the exception with, these scientists, these prominent scientists who are, silencing the voice of people who are saying, this vaccine distribution is not equitable. We've had insanely disproportionate deaths of Black and Brown and Indigenous communities with the COVID virus. And, what's going to happen once we're moving, AIDS was going on in the 80s. People are still dying of AIDS today, 40, 50 years later. We need to make sure that there's an equitable response, and our government is not being run by the people right now. That's why it's not being, and back then under Rahm's health commissioner, and now we're not getting a true, transparent conversation with what we don't get answers. Where is the opportunity for citizens to really ask questions and challenge power and get the real answers? I see freelance journalists on Twitter trying to get FOIAs, and they get documents back that are completely redacted. There's no transparency. People are trying, and it's so difficult still. So not yet.
All right, let me play devil's advocate with you, Byron and Loreen, on this particular issue. I'm a big believer in aldermanic privilege. I've talked about this on the show. I think I've talked about it with you, Byron, yes, on the show, that I thought that was a made-up issue. I was a little embarrassed by somebody when I left the Allies. Were jumping aboard it, say we need to get rid of aldermanic prerogative, give more power to the mayor. Oh, like that's ever worked in the city of Chicago, more power to the mayor. I mean, I got a lot of issues with things aldermen do, but at least they're accountable locally for the consequences of their actions. That said, my old friend, Alderwoman Sue Sadlowski Garza, is kind of like, first she was for the deal, and now, I don't know, she's holding back. What's your attitude, Byron Sigcho-Lopez, about whether the aldermen should just follow Alderwoman Garza's lead on this, or whether they should act independently of whatever she wants on this matter? Go ahead.
That's a great question. And in fact, we had an interesting conversation just yesterday on the air quality ordinance, where it was clear that there was still, unfortunately, some of my colleagues that continue to side with industry. They continue to side with quote unquote growth without acknowledging the other side of the coin, which has to do with environmental impact and the health impact on residents, which is extremely important when we are assessing a project of this size and this impact for the community. I think that it is important, again, and I think I was one of those aldermen who have learned quite a bit, right, about what is meant by Mario, my aldermanic prerogative, and this, you're right, in terms of these misguided conversation about mayoral prerogative and aldermanic prerogative. I think you're absolutely right. I think that what it needs to happen, and I think aldermanic prerogative needs to be followed with community prerogative. Let's discuss on a process, for instance, right? When we have an air quality ordinance, where we are actually allowing the community to vet with impact studies, with environmental studies, and hold the public official accountable. What is happening in this case, it is very convenient for the local official to blame others, right? To point fingers at someone else, right? And said, no, it wasn't me. It was the mayor. Oh, no, it wasn't me. It was the EPA. And you start looking at these state-city dynamics. The state says the city says the state, but ultimately nothing gets done and no changes are made. So I do think in this case, and I think about may add to, I think, a great analysis, and I think that you have been right all along around this issue of aldermanic prerogative, is that how can we pass legislation where we allow the community to democratically and based on science. Everybody, I mean, Mayor Lightfoot talks about bringing back science, and where's the science in this? Where are the science and the facts on this particular issue? Because the federal investigations are very clear that there's some serious issues here, and I think they're urging the Lightfoot administration to withhold the permits. I do think it's important for the local alderman, alderwoman, alderperson to always consult with the community and make decisions based on science and data, but also based on on what the community is saying. And overwhelmingly, people in Southeast Chicago have said that they reject this plan.
Yeah, it seems as though, like I said, Alderwoman Garza is moving on this issue. By the way, I just have to say this. I'm not obsessive on this issue, Loreen and Byron. I don't believe, you automatically have to listen to the alderman, okay? So I reserve the right to make my own judgment based on the information that's out there, regardless of what the local alderman say. So it could be a possibility, Byron, that you would propose something and I would say, sorry, I disagree with you. If you suddenly decided you were going to have a mega TIF deal in your ward, for instance, that was going to help some rich guy and move out poor people, I would be like, yeah, I don't know, but that's not happening. I'm not saying Byron's doing that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying that's an example. So, for instance, Brian Hopkins was for Lincoln Yards, second ward alderman. Just because Brian Hopkins is for it, if I were an alderman, God help us all, doesn't mean that I would be for it. I'm just saying that on an overall matter, I would take greater, I would believe the local alderman before I would just automatically believe the city in this. Loreen, what's your position on all this? Aldermanic control or mayoral control?
I think it was a big theatrical performance. I saw the way, observing Byron's political career and seeing how the media reports on it has been a very interesting experience for me. And, when he was talking about, fighting for his community, the papers were all running these headlines saying, he ran to be a community leader, grassroots activist, and now he's some boss who wants aldermanic prerogative. And the whole time he was talking about community prerogative, but they wanted to construct this narrative of, he wants aldermanic prerogative. And fortunately, he was able to just be consistent that he wants community prerogative. And there's a real distrust, because the 1% runs our government. So if you connect back to the Rahm public health commissioner thing to now, there's a consistent distrust of the public. Marita in her email was saying like, if we release this study, it's going to make the residents of Lincoln Park afraid or something, or the people will be confused. So why are the government leaders so much more competent than ordinary people who can read the study themselves? What do they imagine, that they're all going to become some raving mob and be like, oh my God, and it's the same thing here. Like, you think that a community can't rationally come to a conclusion. Like Byron's doing with zoning, he's bringing these community meetings out, and they're moving projects along. They're not like, they have these like Parks and Rec style stereotypes of what public meetings are like, where there's just a bunch of crazy people who are not rational, and most of us are rational. It's kind of the only reason society exists to any functional degree, is because ordinary people are functional, while our leaders, our puppets of the 1%, are like taking us on this crazy roller coaster ride while we're just trying to keep things on the tracks.
Puppets of the 1%. That is triggering a notion. I have to ask you about Leonard Goodman's column in the Reader before we leave. Puppets of the 1%. Leonard Goodman wrote a very provocative essay in the Reader. We'll talk about whether Joe Biden's a puppet of the 1%. But going back to what you said about confused, Loreen, I have a huge smile on my face. I've been covering politics forever, as you know, in the city of Chicago. And I remember when Mike Quigley who's now a congressman, got the TIF reformer bug. I think it was in 2007. 2006, the summer of 2006, and he advanced a bill of the Cook County Board of Commissioners that would force the county to put how much the TIF tax was on a tax bill, how much you were paying to the TIFs on a tax bill. And I remember, what was the committee, the commissioner from Evanston, Larry Suffredin, saying that would confuse the voters. And that was the first time I'd heard that line. And quickly he's like, as if they're not already confused. And I had a huge smile when you said that, because the health commissioner, she said, yeah, let's withhold this study because it would confuse the voters. Like, if you give them information, what a thought. Like, if you give them information that will overwhelm them and they'll be confused. So withhold information from them so they're dumb, at least they won't be confused. I find that just mind-boggling. It's like something out of George Orwell. The notion that somehow or other the public, Byron, get your thoughts on this, is better served if they have less information to make decisions on. That cannot be a healthy way to run a city.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's and unfortunately that's what we'll be seeing more and more, right? This air quality ordinance, the latest, right? Does not allow the community to see the process from beginning and to end, right? To vet, to having impact studies. It goes, again, gives mayoral control. It gives mayoral oversight. And by the time that things are decided, unfortunately, it's way too late for the community to respond or react. And you're right. We cannot continue to operate under these, top-down approaches or these, behind the scenes deal that it is really hurting. It's hurting us. It's hurting our communities in a time where we need to make sure that we have more than ever before coordination between government entities with community and so forth because of the issues that we have. But that's, again, I think, going to what Loreen said, what we have seen in our zoning decisions is that people know very well what's good and what's not for their community, for what they live, right? And unfortunately, we continue to see a rubber stamp council that rather gives the power to the mayor when it's convenient and, try to take it, when it's convenient to them. We got to make sure that we're consistent. And you're right. Accountability is very difficult for public officials. But, that's what we're here. It's a tough job. And deviating responsibility, avoiding responsibility, or putting it in someone's hands outside the community creates this kind of situations that we're seeing, unfortunately, with general.
All right, you've mentioned a couple times, and before we leave the environmental discussion behind, let's delve into it. The air quality ordinance that passed a city council committee yesterday. I think it was 14-4 was the vote. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was the vote. 14-4 in favor of the air quality ordinance. But even though it passed the committee, it was opposed by many leading environmental groups, which it's an interesting contrast in the midst of everything we've been talking about, the need to be more vigilant in protecting communities against the environment. The air quality ordinance that's opposed by environmental groups is passed by the city council. We'll start with you, Byron. What are the issues here that cause people to object to the ordinance as it now stands?
Yeah, so a few things, and it was very telling in the hearing that there was no one single community group, environmental community group, that it was in support of this ordinance. Talking about the top-down approach, the lack of dialogue or even involvement of public health experts and people who have been doing this work for a long time. In fact, and because of that, many organizations, the Illinois Environmental Council and the Southeast Environmental Coalition, we also saw the Respiratory Health Association, the Center for Neighborhood Technology, among others. There was an overwhelming opposition to it, again, because one made an exemption on warehouses, right? Warehouses, and with Amazon and a lot of these facilities, they need to be regulated. There's also a lot of diesel emissions. There's also a lot of discussion needs to happen. We also have seen with the lack of support, the lack of the lack of teeth of this ordinance, so that when there's issues that are identified, especially around cumulative effects, that we're able to stop these projects on their tracks before they move forward. Those provisions, that kind of community prerogative, and I like to coin that term, right, that so that people have the ability to vet these projects, to ask for impact studies, so that we don't continue to see this dirty industry in a time where we know that the future. And again, in a conversation yesterday, the Department of Planning acknowledged that these are not long-term investments. The future is green. We know that we need to address global warming, that we need to bring green jobs. That's what the future is at. The Department of Planning basically said, yeah, we're going to have a meeting next time. Or let's talk about that next time. But yeah, you're making decisions right now. Mm-hmm. So again, the contradictions in that conversation, and the power of industry, what I'd say, the power of the industry that really has a lot of influence in the council and the state, and is not able to help us move towards the Green New Deal or other pieces of legislation that are critical today more than ever.
We'll close with this one with a question. I'd love to hear your response, Loreen. The opposite side of this issue is people who manufacturing interests and warehouse interests, et cetera. So far, the Chamber of Commerce say that people like Byron are going too far, that they're hurting the economy with their restrictions. They're hurting the economy with their environmental laws and their oversight, and that we should be doing more to encourage any company to open up in Chicago because we desperately need the jobs. As a scientist and as an environmentalist, what's your response to that?
If we need jobs so much, then they need to really think about national legislation that would protect communities from these types of industries. I mean, across the nation, you see all types of industries that continually abuse the oligarchy and put, hog farms and metal shredders in people's backyards. And it truly destroys their lives through generations. I mean, the people in South Chicago have I think more than half of the people have asthma. I grew up in the 9th Illinois, in Schakowsky's district. I don't have asthma. And now I realize that a lot of that reasoning is because of my zip code and because of the sperm lottery, right? And so we need to really have a situation where if you want to have polluting industry, we need to create health-based standards that say you need X amount of green buffer. Why don't we have it where if you want to open a metal shredder, we do a study on how far the particulates go, and then you have to buy X miles of land all around your facility, and it has to be a nature preserve. And then you have, and then you're able to preserve green space and also have you have your industry and you absorb all the externalities. And this is what this is. We're destroying the economy because we're refusing to accept the externalities of another institution that is not they're keeping the profits for themselves, but we are all bearing the cost. So what is that? That's the same thing Bernie Sanders has been saying, socialism for the rich and rugged capitalism for the poor. And it's environmentalism. It's every single issue that you can imagine. And, if they want to have polluting industry, I understand that, we need to discuss as a full society the costs of whatever our modern lifestyles, but we need to put people's health first, no matter how much money they make, no matter their ethnic background or cultural background. And until that becomes a priority, until the working class is empowered to have a voice in their own lives, then I don't want to talk about the economy for the oligarchs.
Well put. That was quite a riff, Loreen. I appreciate it. All right, let's switch gears and talk a little budget in the Chicago City Council. Get your thoughts on this one. I had a smile at this. We've been talking a lot on the show since you were last on about the $281 million in COVID relief money that Mayor Lori Lightfoot, her administration spent on the police. I wrote a column very critical of her, having fun with it. I've been taking a lot of heat from Mayor Lori Lightfoot supporters ever since. I'm not very popular with them right now.
Who are these people?
They exist. They are somewhere.
Just read the comment section of the Reader, and you'll see who they are. But that, so be it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But it was so funny because at the time, follow me where I'm going with this. At the time, Lori Lightfoot and her supporters were saying, we're in the middle of a crisis. And we have to pay our bills, and we have obligations. And it is really irresponsible of critics like hippies who do podcasts from their attics overlooking the alley and radical lefties, aldermen and their wives, it's really irresponsible for them to say we can't spend this COVID relief money on police, because if we don't spend it on police, we are going to have to raise your taxes. And then so last week, I think it was, the Congress, I've lost track of time, passed the $1.9 trillion relief bill. Joe Biden signed into law, and it means like billions of dollars will be pouring into Chicago. And Lori Lightfoot, I'm not making this up, Loreen and Byron, she gave a statement. She goes, "This is not a slush fund." I go, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm all confused, man. And I'm not that smart to begin with. I thought it was a slush fund. I thought you were criticizing the hippie in the attic for saying it shouldn't be a slush fund. Now you're telling the alderman, we can't just spend this on whatever you want, Byron Sigcho-Lopez. This has got, every nickel has to go for exactly how it was designated by the federal government. Okay? So, Byron, help me out on this. Which way is it? Is it a slush fund or is it not a slush fund? Help me out, Byron.
That's well, the irony. All in Chicago, I think we've seen this kind of rhetoric, but it was absolutely, the evidence suggests this was a slush fund for the mayor. $281 million that end up, in the Chicago Police Department for COVID-19 related expenses. Believe it or not, at least going around the alderpersons around, nobody had an idea that the police were actually doing some kind of wellness checks and none of us had any idea that this was going on. So again, going back again for that bad vote about the emergency powers and going back again, doing a fiduciary, the mayor also talked about doing our fiduciary responsibility, right? Well, Mayor Lightfoot, that starts by you providing checks and balances and actual audits of how the money is being spent. So again, but we definitely need to make sure that this doesn't happen again, right? So I think that the lesson for us, and I hope for my colleagues, is that we cannot just write a blank check and then later be, asking, how did this happen? Well, it happened because we allow it to happen, and it's got to be very clear about it. So I think that for those of my colleagues who and then I think we mentioned it briefly, even Alderman Burke had a real great presentation about the breakdown of the budget. Anybody who hears that breakdown will tell you that it is impossible that they spend the money the way that they told us that they were spending the money. There's so many inconsistencies, and more than anything else, the lack of, and the worst part is the terrible results of all this. $281 million got us 750 murders in the city of Chicago last year, over 1,400 carjackings. So for those who say, well, why don't we invest more on it? That's the definition of insanity, that we're going to invest in the exact same thing and expect different results. And Mayor Lightfoot is already indicating that she had no problems doing that. We ought to be, doing a fiduciary responsibility and put those monies, those resources, and that funding into our schools, putting back in our youth programming, putting it back in our most affected neighborhoods. Let's look at the numbers. Over 5,000 deaths, mainly in African American and Latinx communities. We ought to make sure that we look at what works. We know that violence prevention works. We know that restorative justice works. We know that youth unemployment works. Let's look at the carjackings. Many of them are minors. We got to look at the science. And again, Mayor Lightfoot, let's look at the research-based policies that work and not the smoking mirrors that unfortunately we see time after time in city council.
All right. Before we move on, I have to get you to address that Ed Burke thing. Alderman Lopez told me something that was so funny. I was laughing. I just got to set this up. I've been battling Ed Burke since I've been in Chicago. And I don't know if he's friends with you guys or whatever, but I just found him one of the most offensive aldermen that I've been dealing with. He fought Harold. This is before you guys were here. He fought Harold Washington, my beloved Harold Washington, every step. I have no love for Ed Burke. Ed Burke got in trouble, fell out of sorts. He lost his finance committee chair. Lori Lightfoot pounds him like a piñata. It's the fastest way that Lori Lightfoot can look good to reformers in Chicago.
Cameras, she does that, yeah.
Whoa. I'm suggesting that perhaps behind the cameras, they're all lovey-dovey. Anyway, the fastest way to win over reformers is to bash Ed Burke. So Ed Burke, out of nowhere, suddenly becomes the old Scott Wagasback and starts chastising the mayor. The old Scott Wagasback starts chastising the mayor and her for spending the $281 million. I found that so delightfully ironic. In my opinion, he was just mad at her because she was pounding him like a piñata. So I wrote a column about it. Little did I know, Byron, take it away from there, what you told Burke. Go ahead. Finish the story there.
So, and that's right. I think, and by the way, it's just for the record, there we're definitely no friendship or anything like that. I think our politics couldn't be farther apart, right? This got to be the first time actually that we spoken since being in office, and I actually had to talk to him about, because he's in the environmental committee, so I needed to talk to him about a letter that we sent in the mail, which by the way he signed. And then I happened to and I did tell him, look, I think your analysis of the budget was spot on. So, and I'm not sure if you've seen this article in the Reader, and he said, well, no, I haven't seen it. So he emailed me, said, hey, can you send it to me? So I did send it, and he was, it sounded like he was pretty delighted of the article. Thank you very much for sharing. So I think, you never know. I don't know. You're right. What's going on, in what planet we live in. But what do tell you, and I did is very clear, that what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Because if Alderman Burke, out of all people, can see that this is just awful, and I think your analysis in the Reader is very spot on, right? Nobody has known the ins and outs of the budget committee or the budget, than Alderman Burke. And I think, like, if there was any time where he's being honest, it was in that section of the budget, which was for us important, to use as evidence of how wrong and how bad the city is being managed under Mayor Lightfoot.
Well, that is something else you're sending him. Next thing you know, Burke's going to turn into me. He's going to let his hair grow long. He's going to be hanging out in his attic, smoking reefer. Okay. He's going to turn into an old hippie.
In acting, they say we all have the capacity to be the prostitute or the priest. It's all a matter of circumstance.
I'm not sure which one I am in that prostitute or priest. I have to think about that, if that's an insult or a compliment. All right. Loreen, I got to ask you, I sent you the article, and I didn't send it. I told you about it. You dutifully read it. Thank you. You did your homework fast. You're a very fast reader. Leonard Goodman, a good friend of the show, Chicago criminal defense lawyer. He was Blagojevich's criminal defense lawyer, for that matter, and just an out-and-out lefty. I always name like the lefties on my show, Loreen. It's like you, Leonard Goodman, and my friend Sam Holloway, the firefighter. He may be the leftiest lefty. But Leonard Goodman came out with a critique that I know is irritating the hell out of a lot of Democrats. It kind of irritates me on many levels. But I kind of respect him for having the guts to write it. And essentially, it was criticizing Joe Biden for not going far enough in terms of the COVID relief bill and not promoting, for instance, healthcare for all, the Bernie Sanders healthcare for all idea. And it was warning that Democrats are too much under the control of corporate interests and corporate America. I'm going to bring him on and have a discussion about it. I think he was like a little unfair to a certain degree. But the part of the story did kind of resonate with me a little bit. So what was your thoughts? You read the article. What was your general thoughts about Leonard Goodman's critique?
I was like that GIF, like no lies detected. I mean, what's there to be upset about? He's speaking truth to power. I mean, at the end they talk about like, why are these barriers up at the Capitol still? And it's becoming like both parties don't govern. It's a theatrical performance, what we see in the press and in popular media of them. Oh, the Republicans are the traditional values guys, and the Democrat. And if you don't vote for the Democrats, then the Republicans are going to kill you. So you better vote for the Democrats. And that's a very harmful thing. And so when you see guys like Byron running for alderman in a Democratic city, why were all the Democrats against him if they're all for working class power and that sort of thing? So from my perspective, having been in the trenches of a city council race, it doesn't seem wrong. And so Biden, I mean, he has on unions, he seems to be doing okay. But in terms of the $15 minimum wage, I mean, Black women swept him into office, and who would benefit them? Who is most in need of these who's working at Amazon? You know, who are these people who are being exploited for their labor? People of color, women, the ones who swept him into office. And he needs to be the president. He can't just, you know, sometimes you'll have like, I'll have these like conspiracy theories, right? And sometimes I can have a positive conspiracy theory. And so if I wanted to give Biden the benefit of the doubt, I could sort of invest in my positive conspiracy theory, in which he's like, look, I'm going to be good on the unions. And if the unions go and do their union thing, then they'll restore democracy through the unions. And me cutting all these deals with these corporations right now will be just a little blip on my record, but I did good by the unions. And, you know, if Amazon wins the fight in Alabama, if these good things happen, then, you know, the next president will maybe be even more accountable to unions and maybe get us a $20 minimum wage, which is what it should be, you know, based on how much things cost and how much it costs to live in this country.
Yeah, that fight that Loreen's alluding to is a big battle. I haven't done enough, spent enough time talking about it. Amazon facility in Alabama is there's a unionizing, organizing effort, and Amazon does not play, Loreen. I mean, they with the stuff that you were up against with Trump and your union, and the stuff that my baby union was up against when we first organized and the Sun-Times owned us, this is years ago, the old ownership, is nothing compared to what Amazon's doing down there. They're pulling out every trick in the book. They're like even like saying to people, here, we'll pay you to leave the job. So they could just bring in a whole new workforce. I give Biden credit for doing that shout out. I listened very carefully. What your point is that he's being very selective, is what you're saying, and giving unions.
He's like, look, I got to be a sellout here because this is the oligarchy, and this is like not really accurate. Like he said nothing will fundamentally change, and on issues of war, on issues of you know, healthcare and pay for the poor, you know, he hasn't moved. He's like respecting the word of a parliamentarian. Are you kidding me? Like, we should be organizing against a parliamentarian now? Like, they're going to find every obstacle. Like, oh my God, our horoscope says we're not allowed to vote today, and that's what's going to hold us back next.
Yeah, the parliamentarian, of course, is the woman in the Senate who ruled that they cannot vote on the minimum wage as part of the package, the $1.9 trillion package. We've been talking about the show a lot. All right, we're going to close. Byron, I'm going to allow you an opportunity to talk about what's going on with this lawyer who's under house arrest. This is a story, I must confess, that you introduced me to. I apologize for not being more aware about it. I was in The Nation, and I read the article that you said. You gave me homework, and I dutifully did the homework. And I think we're going to reach out to this gentleman, and you're going to be our bridge and bring him on. But why don't you just introduce folks to this topic? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is, you know, in a time of environmental racism, in a time, you know, when we've seen here in Chicago with the hunger strike against Jenna Iron, and we see the big influence of corporations, you know, over the even the health and well-being, and even on federal mandates. This case of attorney Stephen Donziger, who is a civil rights and environmental attorney, who in the 90s became very involved in a fight to hold Chevron accountable for the environmental damage, and this is of unprecedented scale. The Amazon in Ecuador suffered from illegal dumping of oil, using practices that were banned in the U.S. back in the 1960s, but they use in Ecuador dumping oil indiscriminately for at least 2 or 3 decades, where oil ended up in the rivers, in the rivers of our communities. It ended up in the damaging not only nature, animals, but also creating thousands of people who died out of cancer rates, birth defects, you name it, thousands of people. In the 90s, and most recently, you know, in international courts, Stephen Donziger was able to force and hold Chevron accountable to pay reparations to the disaster they created in a huge scale for environmental standards. I mean, the Amazon Watch and many other groups can denounce this as a crime on humanity. And this corporation,
Chevron was ordered to pay
$9.5 billion to pay because of the hard work of this environmental attorney that has, been fighting for a long time until he got the conviction in courts, in the Supreme Court in Canada and Ecuador and other countries. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., Chevron was able to use the judicial system to basically work with the judge with very close ties with tobacco industry, oil industry. And this judge basically has used the courts to almost hire a private prosecutor that has ties with Chevron to come after this gentleman. Now, they use this court and trying to basically confiscate cell phone materials, data, computers, so that they can intimidate, retaliate, and maybe have some effect on this court, accusing him of basically corrupt practices on the ruling in Ecuador, which can be further from the truth. In fact, they have used a judge that somehow this corporation paid. Now he lives in asylum. He's in Ecuador. They used that testimony, another testimony of the other judges who have ruled in favor of Ecuador. This kind of ruling also has put this attorney, Steven Dunsinger, in home detention. He's in home detention for over 600 days. Is unprecedented, and we need to condemn these kind of corporations and the use of the judicial system for intimidation and retaliation. They should be paying the $9.5 billion in reparations instead of using the courts here in the U.S. against those who are actually fighting for civil rights.
Yeah, I know this is important to you because you have family in Ecuador on top of everything else. So, fascinating case. He's in house arrest. Yep. That blew my mind.
They took away his law license. He can't practice anymore. So what they've done, of course, they're violating environmental laws all over the world. And now they've blocked one of the key experts from being able to do his job to protect people's health and environment all over the world now.
Yeah, it's a story that we will be following. And we've run out of time. We didn't even get an opportunity to talk, Byron, about the case that you're a plaintiff on. But we discussed it with attorney Adolfo Mondragon.
Yes.
Loreen, that's the one where Byron Sigcho-Lopez lent his name to a lawsuit that could have huge repercussions for his good friend Ed Burke, among other people. Just kidding. And Michael Madigan. If that lawsuit prevails, and if folks are curious, you should listen to the interview I did with attorney Adolfo Mondragon last week. We talked about it at length, where if you prevail, Byron, then Danny Solis will not be allowed to spend money he raises for his political campaigns on his criminal defenses, on his criminal defense lawyers. And if that happens, then the same rule would apply, presumably, to former House Speaker Michael Madigan, former Alderman Ed Burke. So this is I don't know if you realize what you were getting into when you signed on to this one, Byron and Loreen, but this could have some long-lasting ramifications. So
we hope so. We hope we set a different precedent,
All right. I want to thank you both so much for coming on the show and being a good friend of my show ever since I've been on the air. All right. You two stay safe and sound. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Ben. Take care. Bye,
all
Dennis.
Right. Byron Sigcho-Lopez, Loreen Targos. What you got for me, D?
They are so cute. Political love couple. My goodness. Holding hands the entire time, guys. I had to hold up little signs that said no kissing during the interview. Come on. Get it together, you lovebirds. And we forgot to ask him about that time he had to spell his name.
Oh, my goodness. Next time.
Yeah. Next time. What?
BYRONSIGCHOLOPEZ.
A lot of people on the live stream chat are wanting a mayoral run from either Byron Sigcho-Lopez or Loreen Targos. What do you think about that, Ben?
I think it'd be awesome. Listen, I known Byron for a long time. I met Loreen because of her union activities, and she's a fighter, folks. She's got a lot of guts. I mean, she stood up. Her union's one of my favorites. It's the Union of EPA employees, and they were on the front lines fighting Trump's environmental assault on environmental laws from the get-go. I give a lot of love and credit to them for taking a strong stand there, and their jobs were in jeopardy. So Loreen Targos, courageous on top of everything else. We didn't do any union discussions. We could have gone down that path, Dee, but she's a force in the union as well.
All right, everybody. Find out more information on Loreen Targos and Byron Sigcho-Lopez. I don't know. Google it. You'll find it. That is our show for today, guys. Remember, you can download previous Binge-Rovsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more. Over 900 episodes that you can download at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. I usually say leave your name and where you're from, but scratch that. Just leave us a message, and if we like it, we'll read it. How about that? And you can call the Binge-Rovsky Show, 708-658-4788. 708-658-4788. Maybe call us up, leave us a voicemail, and let us know who you would like to run against Mayor Lori Lightfoot in 2023.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
Hillary, that question sucked. What are you talking about?
Lovely. Maya's favorite bit that we play. All right, I want to thank Byron, Loreen for doing a great job as they always do. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. As everybody knows, back home at home, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Illinois is a state.
BYRON-SIGCHO-LOPEZ.
Play the radio. Play the radio.
How did you
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone, make sure the kids hear words.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
Play the radio.
Since that executive order, restaurants, bars, many small businesses have struggled to stay afloat. Can you give them, Illinoisans, assurances that the worst is behind them?
You know, I feel better today than I have in this entire year. As you see, our numbers have significantly declined. The numbers of people going into the hospital, getting sick, going on a ventilator in an ICU ward. And we've got more people vaccinated than on a per capita basis than any other of the top 10 largest states in the country.